A rigged system. The harsh reality migrant children face in Russian schools. Starting from September 1st, an alarming new policy has taken hold in Russia. Migrant children must pass a Russian language proficiency test before they can enroll in schools. The admission process is expected to become even stricter, despite the already low number of migrant children attending school. Only about 1 in 3 are currently enrolled. But here's where it gets controversial. This policy directly challenges both Russia's constitutional guarantees and international commitments regarding children's right to education. As the new academic year approaches, a surge of anti-migrant sentiment has swept through Russia, fueling demands to make school entry more challenging for migrant children. A recently proposed cross-party bill even suggests charging these children tuition fees, a move that deviates sharply from the principle of free education. The bill's sponsors justify this push by referring to data from Russia's Interior Ministry, which reports over 638,000 underage migrants living in the country, most originating from Central Asia. Shockingly, only about a third of these children attend school. This conflicts directly with Russia's obligations under the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which Russia has ratified, as well as Article 43 of the Russian Constitution that guarantees free and compulsory secondary education for all children. The new language test requirement is already forcing even fewer migrant children into classrooms this fall compared to previous years. Signed into law by President Vladimir Putin, these amendments impose mandatory Russian language proficiency exams for children of foreign nationals intending to study in Russian schools. According to Olga Abramenko from the Memorial Anti-Discrimination Center, racism frequently plays a significant role in preventing these children from enrolling. Human rights advocates often have to step in, accompanying families to schools and negotiating with officials to secure a child's right to education. Starting in March, these language proficiency tests began appearing in schools, with sample tests made available online. For first graders, passing is based on an oral test, whereas children applying for higher grades must also pass a written exam. The difficulty of the language test has triggered heated debates online, with many pointing out that the questions demand a nuanced grasp of Russian grammar, which can be extremely challenging for young migrants who have limited exposure to the language. In the initial month after testing was enforced, only 27 out of 1,762 migrant children passed the language exam and were allowed to enroll, an incredibly low acceptance rate that stuns many experts. Initially, Vyacheslav Volodin, the Speaker of the State Duma and one of the test's backers, claimed the passing score would be 30%, which seemed reasonable for young learners. Yet, he later raised the bar, stating that a score of 90% or more was This raises troubling questions. Are these tests genuinely designed to assess language ability, or are they a means to systematically exclude migrant children from education? Olga Abramenko suggests that, unlike in many countries where language assessments help guide educational support, Russia's tests serve to isolate children deemed unworthy of education. From difficult to almost impossible, barriers to enrollment. Human rights fighters interviewed by Novaya Gazeta Europe estimate that a tiny fraction of migrant children will successfully attend school this September. Changes in the enrollment process have contributed to this decline. Previously, parents could negotiate directly with schools, explaining delays related to paperwork. Now, online applications automatically reject those missing exact documents, closing the door on any flexibility. One activist, preferring anonymity due to security fears, recounted how an Afghan family, even with Russian citizenship, could not enroll their children for half a year because of alleged lack of space. They lamented that while enrolling migrant kids was challenging last year, it has become nearly impossible now. In some cases, families are even considering sending teenage children to relatives in Tajikistan, anticipating their kids won't gain admission in Russia. The situation becomes even more heartbreaking for migrants escaping domestic violence. The activist shared the story of two mothers fleeing abusive husbands in Tajikistan who struggle to get their children into school. As a result, the children remain at home all day, spending endless hours on social media apps like TikTok, missing out on critical education and social development. International reactions and wider implications. Timur Umarov, a researcher at the Carnegie Berlin Center, notes that Kyrgyzstan is so far the only nation responding officially to Russia's educational barriers. Their foreign ministry has suggested testing migrants' Russian language skills before permits to emigrate are granted. Other governments have remained silent, though public outrage is growing. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, migration into Russia has dropped. The new tough regulations also mean more migrants arrive without families, mainly for seasonal work, intensifying the isolation experienced by migrant children denied schooling. There are very few Russian language programs catering specifically to migrant children, leaving many without adequate preparation to pass these stringent tests. To address this gap, human rights organizations are mobilizing to create new educational courses. However, the long-term outlook is bleak. Activists warn that only a small minority of migrants are ready or able to advocate for their rights or seek help beyond their immediate communities. This raises a profound question. Is this tightening of enrollment rules just a practical measure or a deliberate strategy to exclude vulnerable children from education? What are the broader social consequences of pushing migrant families further into isolation? How should a society balance legitimate concerns about integration with the fundamental rights of children? These are the debates Russia's facing now, and your thoughts matter. Do you agree that language proficiency should be a mandatory criterion before school admission? Or do you see this as a violation of migrant children's rights? Share your views and join the conversation.